The second I tapped into this energy, it felt like someone slammed open a door they weren't supposed to touch. Everything around me shifted, like the universe itself was holding its breath. And then, bam, the truth that had been lurking in the shadows surged forward with a force even spirit couldn't soften. I saw the third party standing there, all jittery, their voice cracking, heart thumping like crazy, demanding an answer they had zero clue how to handle. And then there was the divine masculine. He looked at them with this raw, exhausted honesty, the kind that only shows up when a soul just can't carry a lie anymore. You know that split-second silence right before lightning hits? That pause where the whole world feels like it's holding its breath? That's exactly the vibe. Spirit pushed the scene closer, and I saw the question drop from their lips like a blade slicing through months of uncertainty. The DM's answer? It landed with the weight of a confession that could shatter multiple realities. And as soon as it hit, everything around them cracked. This was the moment someone who thought they were winning finally realized they weren't even playing in the same game. Stay tuned, because what's about to unfold next is the part they never wanted anyone to witness. Spirit pulled me deeper, and suddenly the ground felt unsteady. Like every step the third party took toward the truth loosened the world they'd built inside their head. Their reality, made of wishful thinking, assumptions, and the fantasy that DM would eventually pick them, was trembling. And the closer I got to their energy, the more I felt it shaking inside them. Not anger, not defiance, just the kind of trembling that comes from knowing the truth is there, but begging the universe for a tiny delay. DM stood there, chest heavy, but not with guilt, exhausted from holding onto a truth they'd been running from. Admitting it out loud meant all their temporary distractions would crumble instantly. Spirit showed the light around DM flicker, like someone wandering through emotional fog, trying to convince themselves that if they ignored the heart long enough, it would stop screaming your name. But the heart doesn't work that way. The truth doesn't either. The third party, desperate and scared, stepped closer, voice breaking, pleading, "Just tell me the real truth, not the half-truths, not the watered-down story, not the safe version meant to keep the peace." They wanted the full, raw, unfiltered truth. And Spirit whispered, right when that question hung in the air, the energy crackled like a wire about to snap. DM's shoulders dropped, voice softened, eyes carrying the weight of someone who knew honesty would destroy, but hiding would destroy more. The third party was frozen, stuck between fear and hope, unable to decide if they wanted a lie or the truth, because both would hurt. And then, DM hit them with it. No hesitation, no disguise. The words came like a shockwave, ripping the illusions off the third party all at once. The third party wasn't ready. They expected something soft, something safe, but DM's truth was sharp and brutal, spoken not to wound, but because the heart refused to be silent. Tears sprang instantly, raw and unstoppable. They weren't crying because of anger. They were confronting reality they never imagined. And here's the kicker. What DM just admitted is only the tip of the iceberg. What happens next? The third party is about to feel the full weight of a truth they never saw coming. Spirit didn't stop there. They pulled me right into the aftermath, where the third party's world started crumbling like sand slipping through fingers. They were trembling, not from DM's anger, not from any harsh words, but from raw, unfiltered honesty piercing straight through their defenses. Every lie, every assumption they'd clung to for months, shattered in a single heartbeat. They kept replaying DM's words in their mind, hunting for loopholes, misinterpretations, anything that could soften the blow, but there was none. DM didn't hedge, didn't apologize, didn't explain. Their voice was steady, their tone calm, but every syllable carried the undeniable weight. Their heart was still with you. And the third party? Man, they were shook. Their pride, their hope, their little mental narrative where persistence equals love, all of it collapsed. Spirit showed me their energy fracturing like glass under a hammer. They weren't just sad. They were facing a brutal truth they'd been avoiding. They were never competing with anyone but a soul bond, a connection DM had sensed before they even existed in the picture. Destiny wasn't on their side. Every desperate reach for control or explanation fell flat. DM wasn't here to comfort them. They weren't here to sugarcoat or keep things civil. They were standing in raw truth, and it hit like a freight train. The third party tried to steady themselves, tried to act tough, tried to convince themselves that maybe this was just a moment. Maybe tomorrow things would feel different. But Spirit showed me it wasn't. That truth had landed, and it was permanent. DM's shoulders straightened, their chest rose, and there was this flicker in their eyes, like someone finally stepping out of fog and seeing clearly for the first time in ages. They weren't proud. They weren't gloating. They were just aligned, free, in a way they hadn't been for months. The silence around them was thick, heavy, but also cleansing, because the truth, once spoken, clears space. It rearranges everything. Meanwhile, the third party's energy collapsed inward, not because DM wanted to hurt them, but because honesty delivered without a hint of malice hits harder than any anger ever could. Spirit showed how they tried to argue, to twist reality, to convince themselves that maybe DM didn't really mean it. But the tone of DM's voice had already told the story long before the words landed. Tone doesn't lie. It betrays the heart, and DM's heart had always belonged to you. Then came the real gut punch. The third party finally asked the question they'd been dreading. Why them? Why you? After all this time? Why not me? And DM's answer hit even harder than the first confession. They never stopped loving you, even when they tried to move on, even when they tried to distract themselves, even when life got messy. They couldn't. Something inside them refused to let go. Spirit made it clear. The third party wasn't fighting a human competitor. They were fighting destiny itself, a connection so deep, so anchored, that no amount of charm, persistence, or control could ever override it. Every attempt they made to secure DM's heart was like planting seeds in barren soil. The heart they wanted was already rooted somewhere else, deeply, irrevocably, with you. And as I watched DM walk away from that confrontation, Spirit showed their energy shift. Heavy, but relieved too, finally unburdened from the weight of pretending. The third party? Frozen, lost, grappling with the realization that they had been building a future on a foundation that never existed. DM's path forward was no longer about avoidance, about quiet compromise, or emotional dodgeball. The truth had snapped things into place, and it was aligning them toward what really mattered. Spirit whispered that this wasn't just about ending a chapter. It was about setting the stage for a reconnection, a clarity, a return that no one, not even the third party, was ready to witness. And just when the third party thought they'd hit rock bottom, the universe was about to turn the story upside down. DM's next move is about to reveal a truth so deep, so undeniable, it will change everything. By the time I was pulled into the final scene, the energy was electric, heavy, and raw. DM wasn't just walking away from the third party. They were stepping into the truth of themselves. Spirit showed their chest rising and falling, a mix of relief and fear, because finally saying the words aloud wasn't just freeing, it was life-changing. No more pretending, no more hiding, no more emotional dodgeball. Every shadow in DM's heart was exposed, and it was terrifying, but necessary. The third party was still reeling. They weren't crying from cruelty. They were unraveling because their entire emotional game had been built on a lie. They thought persistence, effort, and charm could sway DM. But what DM had just revealed wasn't about timing, effort, or circumstance. It was about a soul connection, a bond that had existed long before they ever entered the picture. Spirit showed their pride cracking, their hopes slipping away like water through fingers. They weren't losing DM. They had never had them to begin with. DM, on the other hand, wasn't celebrating. Their energy was solemn, reflective, almost sacred. They weren't bitter. They were honest. Honest in a way that stripped away illusions, both theirs and the third party's. Spirit showed the memory waves of you crashing into DM's mind, the moments that weren't just romantic, but soul deep, grounding, and irreplaceable. Every attempt DM had made to move away, to distract themselves, to settle elsewhere, had been met by the universe pulling them back toward what was always real. You. Spirit highlighted the subtle shift. DM's emotional withdrawal from the third party wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. Their responses grew shorter, their patience thinner, their presence inconsistent. Not from cruelty, but because their energy was no longer invested in something that wasn't theirs. And as they leaned against a doorframe, eyes closed, memories hitting like tidal waves, it became clear DM was preparing for the next chapter, a return, a reconnection, a reckoning that was long overdue. The third party? Man, they were stuck, their energy crumbling, chest tight, hands shaking, tears streaming, not heartbreak in the normal sense, but the collapse of every story they had told themselves. They realized, in that gut-wrenching instant, that the love they were chasing wasn't ever theirs to claim. They weren't competing with another human. They were competing with destiny, with a soul bond that no charm, no persistence, no emotional manipulation could touch. Spirit then drew me into DM's energy again. They were quiet, alone, whispering internally that they wished they'd acted sooner, that they hadn't run, that they'd trusted their heart more, that they'd fought harder to keep the connection alive. That pull toward you, the one they couldn't shake, was more vivid now than ever. The compass of their heart had realigned, and every step they'd take from here would be toward clarity, honesty, and reconnection. And here's the key. The universe isn't done. DM isn't done. They're not rushing. They're not acting chaotic. They're preparing to move with intention, alignment, and transformation. Spirit made it clear. This isn't about drama, closure, or vengeance. This is about truth, purpose, and reclaiming what was always meant to be. You were the emotional center that grounded DM, the one their soul never let go of. And finally, every layer of avoidance, fear, and pretense has been stripped away. As I stepped back from the vision, I saw DM walking into a room alone, closing the door, exhaling deeply. Not relief, release. A release from silence, from pretending, from suppressing a truth too powerful to ignore. Spirit whispered, "The universe has aligned things for reconnection, for clarity, for the energy between you and DM to return stronger, pure, and undeniable." The third party may still be processing, still shattered, still trying to find footing, but that story ended the moment honesty dropped. The final message is clear. Destiny isn't negotiable. DM's heart never left you. The third party was never meant to hold it. And what's coming next isn't about chaos. It's about alignment, clarity, and the unfolding of a soul connection the universe has been protecting all along. The confession was just the beginning. DM is moving, shifting, and preparing to reveal even more truths that will change everything. And when they do, the universe will make sure the path forward is undeniable, and it's all pointing to you. Man, the energy hitting DM today was intense, like months, maybe even years, of bottled up feelings just exploded in one wave. You could feel it in the chest, the kind of tension that makes your heart race and your stomach twist. DM put a hand over their chest, trying to calm the pounding, but spirit was clear. This wasn't just stress. They were gearing up for a confession that was meant for you, the kind that would shake every connection in their world. No more whispering your name under their breath. No more hiding. No more pretending everything's fine. Spirit showed DM ready to let the universe rearrange their whole life, aligning with the pull of their soul toward you. And then Spirit flashed your energy, steady, grounded, healing, the kind of presence DM has literally never been able to replace. It hit me, DM can function without you. Yeah, but whole? Nah, that's impossible. They've been pushing that truth aside for way too long. But now the universe isn't letting them ignore it. Spirit said, truth is accelerating. Alignment is accelerating. Emotional prep is accelerating. DM's about to finally spill feelings they've been holding in for far too long. And if this is resonating in your chest, type, I claim this truth. The atmosphere around DM shifted. It wasn't just guilt or exhaustion anymore. This was awakening, the kind that forces clarity out from under fear and obligation. DM sat there, silent, replaying moments where they swallowed their truth. Every time they picked comfort over honesty, every time they dodged confrontation to save someone else while crushing themselves. Spirit whispered that today's confession to the third party wasn't rehearsed. It erupted from a place that could no longer lie. Old patterns? Gone. Pretending? Did. Movement? Change. And courage were demanded by the truth. Then the vision hit DM like a lightning bolt. They saw you, not just a memory, but a full-on presence in their mind. Their breathing slowed, tension melted, and for the first time in months, they could exhale. They imagined talking to you, hearing your voice, seeing your eyes, all without pretending. Spirit said DM has been longing for you in ways that scared them more than anything else. Longing equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals risk. DM's done avoiding risk. Something inside shifted too hard to ignore, and denial wasn't an option anymore. Here's the kicker. Spirit showed DM's energy pulling away from the third party, not surface level, but soul level. They were stepping out of a chapter they overstayed. The third party? Total panic mode. Spiraling. But Spirit made it clear. No manipulation. No pleading, no emotional games could reverse what DM already acknowledged to themselves. Jim's heart, fully anchored elsewhere. Clarity? Yeah, it's back, and it feels like a lighthouse guiding them home. The confession wasn't the end. It's just the start. DM's next move is coming, and it's about to change everything. Stay tuned, because the truth they're about to reveal will hit deeper than you think. DM's energy was shifting big time. Spirit showed me them sitting alone, elbows on their knees, hands tangled, caught between memory and awareness. They weren't spiraling, they were awakening. And awakenings? Man, they hit hard, because suddenly, every layer of truth you ignored, delayed, or denied slaps you in the face. And DM? They were realizing that the strongest emotional pull in their life wasn't comfort, stability, or convenience. It was you, always you. Spirit showed the memories rising like waves, raw, unfiltered, full of everything they felt but never expressed, not filtered through what's safe or what's expected. DM remembered your eyes, your voice, your presence calming the chaos inside them. They remembered how your energy made them feel seen and safe in ways no one else ever could. And here's the thing, the longing they felt, it wasn't just for you. It was for the version of themselves that could only be around you. Meanwhile, the third party, total unravel, shock, grief, disbelief. They kept replaying the confession, trying to make sense of a truth they never really wanted. Spirit said this wasn't about anger at DM. It was about the reality check they needed. They were holding on to potential, not reality. DM, holding on to the real thing, the bond with you. The universe finally aligned the facts, forcing truths into the open. DM's mind kept circling back to you, but this time, it wasn't fantasy. It was strategy. How to approach you without fear. How to admit truths they buried under years of doubt. How to finally show up fully. Spirit whispered that DM's fear wasn't stopping them. Nah, it was fueling them. Because truth unspoken becomes regret. And DM's done carrying regrets. They were finally seeing that avoiding you wasn't protection. It was the real mistake. Spirit pulled me into the contrast. DM's aura now lighter, freer, like a cage door swung open. The third party, fragmented, scrambling, facing the heartbreak of truth. DM wasn't celebrating the collapse. They were celebrating freedom. Freedom to feel, to move, to finally exist emotionally in alignment with their soul. And Spirit whispered something major. This isn't the end. It's the setup. The confession to the third party was practice, rehearsal, for the real conversation that's coming with you. Not rushed, not forced, but inevitable. The universe is clearing obstacles, dissolving distractions, and aligning DM's steps so they can finally speak their truth with honesty, vulnerability, and integrity. Hold up. What DM's about to say to you isn't just words. It's energy. It's alignment. It's soul-level honesty. And once this hits, nothing will ever feel the same. You ready for the next part? Now here's where it gets real. DM's fear has transformed into conviction. They're standing at the window again. But this time, shoulders lighter, mind quieter, heart awake, every illusion stripped away. The question isn't should they reach out. It's how. And that how, it carries more weight than anything they've faced before. Spirit showed them replaying every laugh, every tension, every silent moment between you two, not to escape, but to understand. how avoidance created distance, how fear created chaos, how silence wounded both sides. But buried under all that, something unbroken, eternal, something that survived storms, mistakes, and resistance. DM feels it pulling them forward, toward truth, toward clarity, toward you. And the longing? Real talk. It's not just desire. It's alignment, soul level, undeniable. DM's energy sharpened, focused, no distractions. Spirit made it clear. The third party's chapter is over. They'll heal? Sure. But they were never meant to be the destination. That's where the heart belongs. The universe is making that obvious now. DM imagines seeing you again. The tension, the vulnerability, the awkwardness, but above all, relief. Relief in finally facing the one person who mattered most. Relief in speaking what they kept bottled up. Relief in reclaiming emotional integrity. And Spirit said this is coming. Universe approved. No delays. Every day, DM's intuition, clarity, and resolve are growing. They're learning love isn't a one-time choice. It's truth, courage, and action, repeated. Spirit whispered. DM steps toward you aren't impulsive. They're deliberate, intentional, grounded. They're coming to express accountability, vulnerability, and honesty at a level they've never done before. Here's the kicker. The confession they gave today, just the opening act. The main event, that conversation with you, the universe is lining it up. They're ready to face the distance they created, the fear they let dictate decisions, and the truth they've held back too long. This is alignment, destiny, and emotional clarity colliding. If you're feeling this shift in your chest, type, I am ready for divine clarity. The universe is moving. DM is moving. And the next chapter, your chapter, is about to unfold. Get ready, because what's coming isn't just conversation. It's truth, reconciliation, and a level of honesty that will hit soul deep. Don't blink. You won't want to miss it.